Welcome to A Girl in Progress. Let's get into the episode. Hey Ash, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Super excited to have you. So you are a fitness and fat loss coach. You show busy women how to train less, eat more, build more muscle and lose fat, which sounds like a dream. Sounds amazing. But I'd love to hear a bit about your career journey so far, and sort of what led you to start your own business, and I guess how you got from there to here.
Totally. It's funny. I guess it's not funny, but it's strange. I don't have the typical health and fitness journey come career that most people do. I was never an active person at school. I ate Macca's on the reg. I never had any interest in health and fitness, to be honest, whatsoever. And I left school. I didn't get fantastic grades. Like, I wasn't a rebel student. I just wasn't interested too much in school. So when I finished year 12, my grades weren't fantastic. And I always just thought that I would be, I guess, an office admin kind of girl, and that would be my, my career. And it wasn't until 2011, I was 25 and I fell pregnant with my little boy, Casey, who is now just about to turn 8. And I don't know, it was like a light switch flicked for me at that time. I was like, okay, well, I'm pregnant now. This whole life is not about me anymore. It's about, Casey, and I wanted to make sure that he had, I guess, the best start to life. So that's kind of where, I guess, my interest in nutrition came around, where I was like, okay, well, the only way I know how is to, nurture this little being growing inside my tummy, and to make sure that he has, the very best start to life. So I kind of, dabbled a little bit in nutrition. And I started by taking our family favorite recipes, our spaghetti bolognese and all that kind of stuff, and trying to recreate them using a little bit more nutrient dense foods. And I was like, I can do this. This food tastes amazing. And one thing led to another. And I was like, you know what? I actually really am enjoying this, and I want to study nutrition. Not for a career at this point. I was still working in an office at that point, and I didn't think that I would be anything different. So I decided to study nutrition. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm really enjoying this. And then I started to, get into fitness a little bit. Okay, look how much I've been able to achieve in terms of I feel better. I actually look healthier. Imagine what it would be like if I actually started exercising and training as well. So it kind of led me into that path at that point, and I became a personal trainer as well, all still while not thinking that this would be a career. It was just for me. I didn't have any self-belief. Looking back at it now, I was like, I don't believe that I'm good enough to be a personal trainer or anything like that. And I met somebody that kind of like changed my perspective a little bit. She introduced me to a group training style, a studio that was actually opening up very close to where I worked at the time. And when they opened up, I was like, I train like this. I love what they're all about. The vibe in there was amazing. And one thing led to another. And I had conversations with the owner, and he was like, you know what? I love your vibe. You should come in, and I'd love to train you to be like a gym instructor. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I started, like, obviously this is kind of fast track, but I started doing this twice a week. Before work. It was like a 5 a.m. class. I would go in and I would do this, and then I would go and do my normal office day. Obviously, during this time, I kind of skipped over the part that I had Casey. But this was after Casey. Yeah. By the way, I had a child. So I did this, and then fast tracked like maybe 1 month, 2 months in, and he's offering me a gym managerial position in this gym. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like I've never thought that I would get here so quickly. And I was like, this is my passion right now. Where I was working in an office, it was quite a negative environment, to be completely honest. But I didn't really realize it at the time. And I just felt so good being in this other environment. So I was like, you know what? It was a very scary decision. I'd been in my job for 8 years at that time. It was a family-run business. My husband worked there as well. And to tell my dad, who owned the business, that, hey, I'm leaving, to go and pursue a career in fitness was a little bit challenging. But I truly believe that that was the turning point for me in terms of belief and knowing that, okay, that's a really scary decision that I made, but on the other side of that super scary decision actually was the beginning of kind of where I am today. So I managed this group training studio, learned a lot about personal development in the time. And it came to a point when it was just before my son turned 5, and I was having all of these like kind of flashbacks of like, wow, for the last, 5 years or close to 5 years, all I've been doing is working really, really hard. And I feel like I skipped past 5 years of my son's life and I didn't get to spend all that time with him. I guess at that time that I realized that, I wasn't really spending that much time with him. All I was doing was working. Kind of, I don't know if it was coincidental that this happened, but my boss at the time also wanted me to work more hours. And at this time, I was already working extremely long hours, kind of like a split shift where I took 2 hours off in the middle of the day, but, he's at daycare. And I don't know, I had this overwhelming feeling of like, no, this is not what I want to do. Like my goal for this year, this was obviously a few years ago, is to spend more time with him. And this is actually going to force me to spend less time with him, which got me thinking a lot. And I ended up crying a lot about it, like at home and stuff like that. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to look for another job. At this time, I'd kind of like, over the years of managing the gym, I tried my hand at, starting my own meal planning business. And I had these great ideas of wanting to get an online portal set up so that people could create their own meal plans and stuff like that. And I tried. And the problem was I was so comfortable with where I was working that full-time job that I never pushed hard enough to make it happen. And I still to this day believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for you, not to you. And I think that this overwhelming feeling of like, no, I don't want to do this. I want to spend more time with my son, kind of was the beginning of where I guess the Ashlane brand was born. Once I decided to make that tie, I actually hadn't secured another job. And like at that point, and I looked around for a job, and I actually found a lady that was very close on the Gold Coast actually, and she's a business coach for health coaches, and she was looking for an assistant, and it was online predominantly based, so virtual. And I was like, this is amazing. This is kind of like what I need. I need to be in this environment. This is kind of the direction that I want to head in. I want to do my own business. I want to, I want to do more online work. And so I started working for her. But the problem with that was, and I only know this now, is that I was so invested in working in her business that then what originally I wanted to have as like a gateway to me working more in my business was more comfort. All of a sudden, I had the lifestyle that I wanted. I had the opportunity to pick Casey up from school, to drop him off from school. I had the flexibility and I was getting paid. So I had that lifestyle, but I was still working for somebody else. And 6 months into that journey, some changes happened in her business and she needed to cut staff hours back. And all of a sudden my full-time hours got cut to 10 hours. And then I was kind of in a similar position that I was in 6 months, 6 months prior. And after again, crying again, and I was like, you know what, this is it. I'm not going to be put into a position like this again. This is the time for me to go, you know what, all your energy goes into building your own business. I'd already built an online presence during this time, just sharing my own fitness journey and dabbling in, meal planning for people. And obviously when I was personal training and managing the gym that I was working in, I'd already built a little bit of an online presence. I'm just going to go all in. And I did. And here we are, like nearly 2 years later. And I've been working full-time virtually since that moment that she was like, Ash, I've got to cut your hours back to 10 hours a week. I've been able to build my business to the point where my husband was able to leave his full-time job in February this year as a result of just pushing forward and just trusting and believing. So that is my,
No, it's such a great story. And like, there's been a few different things that I'm like, oh, I love that. But I love most of all the fact that you didn't have like a whole, 5-10 year plan. Like, you didn't even know initially that this is what you wanted to do, but you kind of were drawn to it out of your own interest and passion. And it's just kind of like everything sort of just like, it really feels like fate just kind of like led you in this direction. And I think it's funny how the universe kind of like keeps giving you, because this has happened to me as well, the universe keeps giving you these signs that it's like time to focus on your own business. And you're like, you take something on for like the comfort, I guess, of having the income, and then it's like something happens there, and then you take on another one and something happens there, and it's like, yeah, you kind of eventually have to get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going all in on this.
Yeah. I totally agree. I speak to so many people in the same position as well. And, working for a business coach during that time, I kind of transitioned into a role of, I guess, coaching other coaches as well, because I was kind of building my business on the side, and I knew a lot about Instagram and I knew a lot about marketing just naturally in the roles that I had done. And I always find, and I'm not by no means saying, oh, whoever's listening, if you want to build your own business, quit your job today and then go all in. Definitely not.
Not always the best option. No.
It's not always it isn't. And I think I just naturally have that personality of, and this is only something that I've developed over probably the last 5 years, but nowadays I have a natural personality where I will just do. If I go, you know what, that's a really good idea, I don't give it a second thought. I will just go all in and it's done. By this afternoon, cool, that idea's out, boom, we're moving forward with it, so.
Yeah, you're an action taker. Actually, I'd love to talk about that, because that is such a theme of the podcast and everything I do as well. Just like this idea of starting before you're ready, but also just taking action. Like, have you always naturally been someone who is able to just, not be too perfectionist about things and just get something going, like just start? Like, or is that something you've had to actively work on?
Yeah, I definitely would say something that I've had to work on, and I've only really, I feel like I nail it now. And I would say in the last maybe 5 years, prior to that, definitely a perfectionist, looking at all the shiny objects and, spending time on like, oh, my website must be perfect. And to be honest, when I started my business, I didn't even have a website. I actually only have a website to this day. Because I was speaking to somebody who wanted to have me on their podcast, and this was like maybe 15 months ago. And then I was talking to somebody else that wanted me on their podcast, and they was like, we want to link your website. And I was like, yep, I probably should have a website.
I have one of those.
Like, that's right. And we do Instagram accounts. Yeah. And yeah, I like legit just quickly put it, I learned how to do it myself. I YouTubed videos. Like, that's one thing, is that I'll always nowadays commit, go, yep, I can do that. And then future Ash will worry about the problem and how to get it done. Like, we can always figure it out. You know, like I always say, worst case scenario is death. Am I going to die? Yes or no? If the answer is no, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Right? There's so many resources out there now that like you can figure out anything, if you're scrappy and resourceful, like you just make it happen. I totally agree. You just say yes and then worry about the how later. Like you make it happen if you want it bad enough. And tell us a bit about what your programs or your coaching actually involves, because I know you take quite a different evidence-based approach to female fat loss. Oh, is it mainly women you work with?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's funny you say that because in the last week, I've had a bunch of men reach out and say, hey, do you work with men? I used to. Just the way that the business has evolved and grown is I don't have effectively a one-on-one private coaching experience with phone calls involved anymore. It's something that I used to do heavily. The way that the business has evolved is effectively my coaching is one-on-one. I know that, we do see, and I see it every day on Instagram, I'll be coached by me, someone's spruiking their program. And effectively, it's their program and recipes and stuff like that, but you're not being coached by them.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. 2,000 people, Yeah. So when I say effectively my program is a one-on-one program, it is. Where the group comes into it is that you've got the added benefits of having a community on Facebook. So, I do your individualized training program. I do your individualized nutrition strategy. But the most important part is the education. The education is delivered in the group. Whereas previously I used to deliver the education via one-on-one phone call, which I believe the group is actually more powerful to deliver education because other people ask questions that you may not necessarily have asked and you're learning through them as well. But yeah, education is something that I rely heavily on. And the reason I like to use this analogy a little bit is, you could go and get a meal plan off somebody and get a training plan off somebody. But it is no different to me, saying, oh, we're going to go to a cafe for lunch today, but I'm going to shove you in the boot of my car and you're not going to see how we get there. And next time you want to go to the cafe on your own, you're not going to know how to get there. Knowing how to do a training, create a training program and knowing how to do a nutrition strategy or create your own meal plan is so much more valuable than just writing you a training program and writing you, a nutrition or meal plan. Of course, I give them recipes and all that kind of stuff. And we talk about this back and forward in the group. Most of my education, I would say, comes through back and forward DMs, private DMs with my girls. So that's where I guess the private one-on-one kind of comes into it. I would probably spend half of my day during the day, week, answering and chatting through DMs to my girls. So that's where a lot of the one-on-one comes from. I also do weekly KPI check-ins with them as well. So, how did they go last week? I set 3 targets, and this is something that I like to make really easy for the girls, but, they hit a protein target, which is daily. They hit a calorie target for the week, and then their training. Did they hit those 3? If they didn't, why didn't they? And how can I make it more achievable for them? Sometimes I get questions saying, oh, how many days a week do I have to train? I'm like, well, how many days a week can you train?
Yeah.
Because there's no point in me saying,
yeah,
right? Like that. Okay, 6 days. Oh, but I can only train 1. Well, obviously it's not going to work for you. Adherence is key. And I think adherence in even business or training is key. Like I remember speaking to a couple of people that had just been starting out in their business similar to mine. And they're like, okay, so how many times a week do you post on Instagram? Or, how many lives should I be doing? And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what I do. How many can you commit to? And it's the same with the girls. We talk about adherence, what they can commit to, and then work their strategy out from there. I do weekly lives in the group as well. So the girls can have me answer their questions live, which sometimes people, understand easier if you're talking rather than reading something. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that around like female fat loss and female fitness? Because I know it is so different to what men deal with. There are so many factors like hormones, stress. Yeah, like what do you think are the biggest misconceptions there?
My gosh, like the biggest misconceptions. I reckon we could talk about this for an hour.
Yeah.
I won't, I promise you I won't. But I don't know if this sounds familiar to you or anyone that's listening, but most people, okay, so I have to restrict hardcore. I can't possibly enjoy my favorite foods like chocolate or chips or ice cream. Like carbs must be cut out, like I need to train 6 times a week. Like these crazy all in kind of attitudes. People think that they need to go all in to achieve some kind of fat loss, which I totally don't believe in. And this is something that I teach my girls, is the minimal effective dose. I say, what can we do that is the least amount possible to achieve or to get you the greatest results? All of that kind of stuff, dieting hardcore and restricting carbs and restricting your favorite foods, hey, it does work. And the reason I say it works is because when you start cutting out food groups, you're in a calorie deficit. And what does a calorie deficit do? Give you weight loss, but it's short term.
But you can't stick to it. Yeah.
No,
so
you
what is
can't.
the point? It'll literally come back and more.
And it does. You are 100%
yeah.
you get short-term success with being in a deficit, but like you said, it's not sustainable. And what actually ends up happening is you're pushing your end goal further and further away each time that you do it. I do say that, because I get this quite a bit, if your diet worked for you and then you gained 5 or 10 or more kilos back, which happens more than you think, then your diet actually didn't work for you because it wasn't sustainable. So they would probably, I would say, that the biggest misconceptions.
Yeah. And is that something that you have experienced yourself in the past before you figured out like what works? Like, were you kind of on that diet roller coaster yourself at any point?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first, I would say when I first started combining my nutrition experience with training after I had Casey, I did go through a very long period of time where I did restrict food groups. Pizza and chocolate are probably my 2 favorite foods, and I did not eat them for 12 months. All I ate was whole foods.
It's life.
Oh, honestly, I was, at the time, I think I was so, I guess, scared of these foods. They became a fear food, which meant that I possibly couldn't have them. They're bad for you. And I put these labels on them, which made me kind of not want them. But when I realized how much of life I actually missed out on because I restricted from that, I think that's when things started to change and my mind was a little bit open more, like there has to be another way, I got to a point where I just kept adding on more training and I just kept eating less because I still wanted to progress. And I was at a point where I was like, okay, I'm at a plateau, nothing's happening. So what can I do? Well, okay, I must train more. But what happens when you're training twice a day, 7 days a week? Well, you can't train anymore. And what happens when you're eating to a point where you're starving? Okay, well, you can't eat any less. So where do you have to go? And that's when my mind started to shift and be like, okay, cool, there's another way. And I started yo-yo dieting and I started noticing really poor, binge eating episodes. I guess binge eating is a very clinical word. I guess I could say overeating, restrict followed by overeating. And it was becoming quite problematic. So to be honest, I saw it a lot with where I worked in the gym as well. People would come in, do lots of 8-week challenges, and they thought that an 8-week challenge was their answer. If they're not on an 8-week challenge, then they eat all the food and they don't train as much. As soon as you're on an 8-week challenge, okay, you're on. And this breeds that all or nothing mindset, which doesn't equal balance. you're either on or you're off. So I was like, you know what, we need to find how to work this balance thing. Like, how do you live a normal life? How do you enjoy what you're doing every day? You know, life is so short. If you're miserable every day, training your butt off, you're eating nothing, you can't enjoy time with your family, what is the point? What for?
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of built, well, that's how I've built my program. That is my like goal, is to get these women going, Ash, I'm spending time with my family. We're eating the same food. I'm not scared of having pizza. Oh my gosh, I had a glass of wine on the weekend and guess what? It's Monday and I'm not fat. You know, like that's how I want them
all or nothing thinking. I know there's like an expression that's like, you can't get like skinny in a day and you can't get like overweight in a day. Like it's what you do over the long term that makes a difference. And I think it's great that you focus on education, because it does give women the tools for even going forward. Like, you know, they, after they finish up working with you, and obviously the goal is for them to work with you for as long as possible, but like they will have those tools going forward that they can use themselves. So I think that's amazing. And have you ever dealt with, like, you might even find this being in the fitness industry, like it's such a competitive industry now, and then like it's really exploded. Like, I mean, fitness coaching has really exploded. Do you ever deal with any like comparison around there, or like, you know, maybe looking at what other people are doing and struggling with that comparison, and how do you deal with it?
You know, it's funny. I think at the start I did. I think over the last probably 2 years, I've realized that it doesn't serve me, and there's no personalitis, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't ever struggle with it. And to be honest, you talk to anyone, and I think that everybody at some point, probably for most of their life, struggles with comparisonitis, whether it be the way you look, or that someone's better than you, or, you know, fearing that you're not good enough. I truly sometimes think that it believes that, that it comes down to people never believing that, or believing to their core that they'll achieve whatever it is that they set out to achieve. And then somewhere along the lines, they self-sabotage. And then that's kind of like, okay, well, I knew I couldn't do it. Like, you're reconfirming. It is so much easier to, I guess, explain what you need to do, but sometimes it's really hard to truly accept the feeling, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just practice, and it probably sounds a little bit corny when it comes to it, but, you know, truly believing. There is so much to be said about believing, and as a result, when you believe and set your mind to something, the result from just that belief is an action that's actually going to move you in the right direction. If you sit here and you kind of like, oh gosh, you know, you focus all your time on, oh, I'm not as good as her, I'm not, you know, I'm never going to be that good, and you're repeating that over in your head, like, what's the action of that going to breed? Like, you're not going to do an action that's going to move you forward. If you truly want to move forward in your business, or even in your health and fitness journey, you have to have some kind of belief. And I think sometimes, whether that be on a daily basis, repeating to yourself that I can do this, or I am good enough. And like, that's where the corny bit comes into it, because a lot of people are like, well, that's not sexy. That's not.
But it's so important. Like, the mindset is such an important part of the puzzle, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your career. Like, if you're operating from that place of like lack and like negativity, it's just not going to breed good results. It's like when you launch something, if you go into it like with a poor mindset, people can tell.
Totally. I totally agree. It's funny that you say that, because I spoke about this briefly on my Instagram stories, but it was based off a conversation that I had. And whenever I get an idea, and I said to you before, or I talk about an idea with somebody and I'm like, that's a really good idea, I'm going to do that, I've already got that belief if I get an idea that I don't 100% align with, and I'm like, it's an all right idea, and I'm on the edge of belief, it never works. It 100% never works. And I've experienced that.
Yeah.
You have to be all in. You have to believe.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm about to actually launch or fast track a program that I wasn't going to launch until next year. And that's just as the way that the business is growing. Like I can't keep filling my groups. I'm at my maximum with my group. I personally cannot serve more people. I'm at my max. So I'm about to launch on Friday a program called Train with Ash, and I have fast tracked it, but I truly believe in it. And I'm like there's no thought in my mind that like this isn't going to work, you know? And I think that just comes with experience and taking leaps that are a little bit nervous, like nerve-wracking, and knowing that once you get to the other side, it's okay. Oh, wow, that was great. That turned out really well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah. But I think it also is when you are really aligned with like what you're doing and like your gut is telling you that it's the right time to put it out there, then like that's a really good sign. Whereas if you're feeling a lot of resistance, sometimes it can be a sign that it's not the right time. Like I guess it's just figuring out how to like get in tune with your body, so you know when you're just scared but it's like a good scared, and knowing when it's like your gut's like it's not right. Like
totally. I totally agree. I know it will shock a lot of people, but the very first thing that I do every morning is, this is my bedroom over here for the people that like right next to my office. Okay. So I walk out of this door, sit at this desk, and I start answering DMs to my private clients every day of the week. Look, a lot of people may potentially disagree with that, with what I do in terms of flow, but I enjoy what I do. I think it is so important to enjoy your day, enjoy the process, enjoy it. I enjoy getting up and walking straight to my desk and answering my DMs, partly because my program is a premium price program. And my goal for every single one of my clients is to make sure that they feel like they are my only client, but I also really, really enjoy it. They pay for a high level of support. I enjoy giving a high level of support in return. So I make sure that they get it. So that's the first thing that I do every morning and evening. After I do my DMs, that's kind of like when my day starts. I usually do an hour on the nose of that. Then I start to get ready. I do like to spend 10 minutes of meditation in the morning. I like that. I am a very calm personality. I don't like chaos. I don't like rush. I just like to be like, it will be okay. You know, we will work it out. I feel like meditation, I just listen to a guided meditation, to be honest. I just like the way that it makes me feel. Then that's when I kind of actually start my day. I'll go and have a shower. I'll get my little boy ready for school. We will drive together to school. It is like a beautiful drive along the Broadwater to school. We, usually I put on a podcast, and he's 8, nearly 8. He'll listen to a podcast with me as well. We'll talk, he'll ask questions. And then I get a coffee, which I say is my morning cup of joy. I love the experience of going to the coffee shop and getting a coffee. And then I come back to my desk after that. And then I will get back into some, DMs as well at that point. To be honest, probably DMs and private messaging my clients is probably 50% of my day. So, Mondays and Tuesdays, high KPI checking kind of days. Then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I spend a lot of time doing content creation in terms of my Instagram posts, new spreadsheets for clients. I'm a bit of a spreadsheet nerd. I created this fully automated spreadsheet for my girls that actually automates whether they're on the right track or not. It actually gives them, I call my girls green tick girls. So, it actually gives them a green tick if they've successfully achieved their week. I loved it. So I spent so much time on the formulas are like an address long. It's so funny. They're so long.
I love a good spreadsheet when I'm not the one creating them. When someone else creates it for me, then I'm like, magic. I wouldn't know how to do it myself.
No, it's like, but that, you know, like that kind of stuff, it brings me joy. You know, like at the moment, my Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays are really content heavy for my 5-day challenge that's coming up, or podcasts or YouTube videos, you know, any kind of stuff that I guess falls into that content creation. And then obviously business strategy is a little bit in those days as well. You know, when is my next group starting? What do I need to do before they start? Whether it be Facebook ads or, you know, making changes to my 12-week program because I run 3 12-week programs a year. Every time I'm looking to add more value. I want them to have more stuff, or making tweaks to make it flow a little bit better and stuff like that. I guess at the end of the week, you could say that I work significantly north of a 40-hour week, but I think I heard once on a podcast, or maybe someone told me, that you'll leave your 40-hour-a-week job to work 80 hours for yourself.
So true.
But it doesn't feel like work.
You're like, oh,
nah.
I barely even work. And everyone's like, you're constantly working. I'm like, yeah, but no, it doesn't count because it's fun. No. That's how you want to be. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I love that. I couldn't agree. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I love that you said that you start your mornings with, you know, I know that conventional wisdom is like, oh, you shouldn't look at your phone until you've done your meditation and had your water and done this, that, the other. But I think it's just all about doing what works for you. Like sometimes I'm really bad and I'll like look at my phone in bed because I find it like helps wake my eyes up and I'm like, you just have to do what works for you rather than just listening to what people say you should be doing. And like, if that excites you, like responding to your clients, and I think that's a great way to start the day.
I totally agree. I think that ultimately, like you said, you know, what works for you, but also, you know, it doesn't mean that the person who gets up and does their 1-hour morning routine is more disciplined, or I'm more disciplined because I get up and start work. It doesn't mean that. It means that we like doing that. So therefore, it's easy for us to do. I think that speaks so much truth to even people with their health and fitness journey, you know, like those people that get up, and it used to be me. I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning and go and train. And people used to say, how can you do that? Because I really liked it at that time. At the moment, I don't like doing it. Now I train at 1:00, and that I train 3 days a week because that's something that I enjoy doing. And that's something that I can maintain and consistently do and adhere to. I think there is so much to be said for adherence and consistency in every area of your life, whether that be relationships or training or work or whatever.
Yeah, you have to make it fun and easy for yourself. Otherwise, you're just not going to stick to it. You're going to do it for like 2 days and then be like, I'm over this. If it feels like a chore, then it's just never going to work out long term.
Absolutely.
And just to finish off, what are your non-negotiables for a healthy and productive day?
You know, it's funny that you say my non-negotiables, because I'm the person that gets up and starts doing DMs every day.
Yeah.
I think that the way that my life has fallen into place, it hasn't been because I have sat there with a plan and gone, I must do X, Y, Z to have a successful day. My only prerequisite is, does this bring me joy, or does this not bring me joy? Because I, over the years, have realized that you have to do things that truly to the core bring you joy and happiness. I actually naturally, it's funny, you know, people will forcefully practice their gratitude in the morning. And I think that is important if you have naturally a negative mindset. I naturally, without even thinking about it, practice gratitude. I will walk out onto my balcony at random times of the day and I'll be like, I am so freaking grateful to live where we live. You know, like things like that, you know, like it's just, I'm naturally a happy and grateful person, but that's because I've put so much effort into learning how to do that stuff years ago. In terms of like non-negotiables, I guess my my morning in terms of driving my son to school is very, very important for me, and getting my morning coffee, not because I feel like I need a coffee. I love that experience, and making sure that I spend time with him while around my work. So in the afternoon, we will put our computers and stuff away, whether that be before dinner, and we will, have a conversation as a family. And whether I be, he goes to bed and I get back on my computer, or whatever that might be, that's totally okay with us. But I guess that would, to be honest, be part of my only non-negotiables.
Yeah.
I know that sounds really boring.
No,
but...
I should have asked you, what are your non-negotiables for a happy day? Because that's what it's actually about. I think that's really what your answers really lend itself to. It's about the things that like bring you joy, like you said. Like, being healthy and productive is secondary to, healthy is important, but healthy and happy are much the same thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I think that's just something that I have really learned over the years. I remember, actually, you just made me think of something. An old boss used to say to me that you must focus on the 1%ers every day, because if you do 1% every day, that will equal 100%. And that is what I used to do. But I kind of disagree with it now, only because I've been working in the business for so long now. I believe that you need to focus on consistent big rocks, rather than focusing on the 1%ers that potentially will fall away. That you need to focus on the big things, like the things that bring you joy, because it breeds, whilst happiness does not directly breed a successful business or a great body or a healthy body or whatever it might be. Being happy then breeds that consistency, and it breeds taking action in the right direction, as opposed to taking action in a negative direction.
Yeah, I think looking back, you're not going to remember that you took your vitamins every day and did push-ups every day. You're going to remember the big things, and the big things that made you happy, and the big successes as well. So I think that's a really great approach. And where can everyone find you online and on social media?
So my my online home is Instagram, guys, not going to lie. It is at @Ash__Lane. So that is 2 underscores. This poor guy who is just Ash_Lane, he always gets my tags, and I'm like, well, you could give me the name.
Yeah, I think it's a sign. If you've been using his account, the worst is when they don't even use it and you're like, no, give it to me.
Please. Yeah. So that's that. Also, you can find me at my website, which is just ashlane.com.au. But yeah, my 5-day challenge is starting on September 7th. So I'm really, really excited. It's a free 5-day challenge that we run over on Facebook, but it is a very educational, when I say challenge, it's not a challenge. The guys don't come in and think that you're going to lose weight in 5 days. It's definitely not about that. It is just more so about educating you on sustainable fat loss over the 5 days. So,
amazing. Yeah. And we'll pop all those in the show notes as well.
Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh no, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your wisdom and your story on all things fitness and career. I feel like it's going to be super inspiring to anyone listening at home.
I hope so. Thank you.
You can also check us out over on agirlinprogress.com, the online destination for women working on themselves for themselves. Or get social with us on Instagram at _girlinprogress. Can't wait to see you there.